The bedroom curtains were half drawn, letting in thin strips of afternoon light that fell across the bed like golden bars. Sarah's hair was spread across the pillow, her laugh low and lazy, the kind of laugh she used to give Daniel in their first year of marriage. But Daniel wasn't there. Marcus was. He traced a finger along her collarbone, and she didn't stop him. He leaned close and whispered something near her ear, and she laughed again, turning into him like a flower turning toward the wrong sun. Their lips were close. Too close. And in that room, warm and quiet and stolen, it felt like no time had passed between them at all. "I missed you," Sarah whispered. "I never stopped," Marcus said. She pulled back just slightly, a flicker of something, guilt, hesitation, crossing her face. But Marcus cupped her cheek with his hand, and whatever was about to stop her, didn't. "We shouldn't," she started. "We already did," he said softly. And she let herself fall back into it. Downstairs, the front door opened. Before we go any further, if you're new here, welcome. If you've been watching this channel, you already know we don't do fake stories. Everything you're about to hear is real, the names have been changed, but the pain, the betrayal, and what happened next, every single detail is true. Hit that subscribe button right now because this series is going to shake you. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from, because this community is global and I want to know you're here. Now, let's get back to Daniel. Daniel Carter was not supposed to be home. His flight to Atlanta was scheduled for noon. The Meridian account had been on the table for 3 months, a corporate deal worth more than his last 4 years of salary combined. He had packed his bags the night before, kissed Sarah on the forehead while she pretended to sleep, and driven to the airport with nothing but ambition and bad coffee keeping him awake. But the flight was cancelled. Weather delay, then a mechanical issue, then a full cancellation notice at 10:47 a.m. He rebooked for the following morning, texted his manager, and turned his car back toward home. He even stopped at the bakery on Elm, the one Sarah liked, and bought her favorite almond croissants. He was thinking about surprising her. He was thinking about her smile. He was thinking about all the wrong things. He pulled into the driveway and noticed a car he didn't recognize. Dark blue Toyota. He frowned, looked at it once, figured it was one of Sarah's friends, grabbed the bakery bag, and walked to the front door. It was unlocked. He stepped inside. The house was quiet in that particular way that felt rehearsed, the kind of silence that wasn't natural but performed. He set his bag by the stairs. He heard something from upstairs. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just a voice. A man's voice. His body understood before his mind did. He climbed the stairs slowly. Every step measured. Every breath tight. He reached the landing and walked to their bedroom door, which was pushed halfway open. He stood there for 3 full seconds, seeing everything he needed to see, before he stepped back. He did not say a word. He walked downstairs, placed the bakery bag on the kitchen counter, picked up his car keys, and left. He closed the front door so quietly it didn't even click. He sat in his car for 47 minutes. He didn't call anyone. He didn't cry. He gripped the steering wheel with both hands and stared at the windshield like a man trying to see through a wall. His mind kept replaying those 3 seconds at the door, the hair on the pillow, the voice, the closeness, and each time it played, something inside him didn't shatter the way he expected. It calcified. It turned into something harder and colder and far more dangerous than tears. That was when he made the decision. He was not going to react. He was going to respond. And there was a big difference between the two. He drove to the Marriott on 5th, paid cash for 2 nights, and sat on the edge of the hotel bed with his laptop open and a yellow legal pad beside him. He wrote 2 words at the top of the page. Marcus Webb. Because he recognized the voice. He hadn't heard it in over 2 years, but some voices you don't forget, especially the ones you were once told not to worry about. He's just an old friend, Sarah had said, 14 months ago when Marcus's name had come up at dinner. We grew up together. There's nothing there, Daniel. Don't do this. He hadn't done anything then. He was going to do something now. Marcus Webb. 34 years old. Financial consultant, or at least that's what his LinkedIn said. Daniel pulled it up and scrolled through it methodically, the way a man reads a contract before he signs it. Marcus had worked at 3 firms in 5 years. He had a polished headshot, a string of endorsements, and a bio that used the word visionary twice. Daniel wrote everything down. Then he went to Instagram. Marcus's profile was public, which told Daniel everything he needed to know about the man's ego. He scrolled back 6 months without blinking. Photos of restaurants, airport lounges, a beach in Cancun in February. And then, a woman. She appeared in 7 photos across 4 months. Not tagged, but consistent. Dark hair, warm smile, always at his side. In one photo, Marcus's hand was at the small of her back. In another, she was wearing what looked like a promise ring. In the most recent one, 3 weeks ago, they were at a rooftop dinner and she was laughing at something off camera while Marcus looked directly at the lens, unbothered, almost proud. Daniel screenshotted everything. He didn't know who she was yet. But he was going to find out. He ordered room service, opened a second document, and began building a timeline. Every mention of Marcus in the last 2 years. Every work late from Sarah. Every weekend trip she'd taken with girlfriends he'd never met. He wasn't a jealous man by nature, but looking back now, the pattern didn't ask for interpretation. It announced itself. By midnight, Daniel Carter had not slept, had not cried, and had not called his wife. But he had filled 11 pages of a legal pad. And on the last page, he wrote 3 words. Find the woman. Don't go anywhere, we are just getting started. If this story already has your heart racing, smash that like button and make sure notifications are on. Daniel woke up at 5:43 a.m. with the legal pad still on his chest and the hotel room TV muttering low in the background. For 1/2 second, before full consciousness arrived, everything was normal. Then it wasn't. He showered, dressed, skipped breakfast, and opened his laptop. The woman in the photos had a face he could work with. He went back to Marcus's Instagram and studied the rooftop dinner photo, the clearest one. Behind her left shoulder was a partial sign. Blue lettering, serif font. He zoomed in until it pixelated, then zoomed back slightly. 3 visible letters, RAJ. A restaurant name, maybe. He typed variations into Google until he found it. Maharaja Rooftop Bar and Grill. Midtown. Known for its string lights and Friday evening reservations. He searched the restaurant's tagged photos on Instagram from that same Friday in April. 42 posts. He went through every single one. On the 31st photo, posted by a woman celebrating her birthday at a nearby table, visible in the soft background, Marcus, and her. And this time the woman had liked the photo. Her profile was private. But her name was not. Priya Anand. Daniel wrote it down and sat back. He felt something that wasn't quite satisfaction but lived in the same neighborhood. He searched her name on LinkedIn. Priya Anand, 31, Senior Project Manager at Callaway Group. Professional headshot. Calm eyes. Smart smile. The kind of woman who had her life in careful order. He stared at her photo for a long moment. She doesn't know, he thought. She has absolutely no idea. He felt something unexpected then, not anger, not strategy, just a clean, quiet sorrow for a woman he had never met, who was sleeping somewhere in this city with her trust fully intact, not knowing it was being quietly dismantled. He knew that feeling now. It was only 12 hours old in him, and it already weighed more than anything he had ever carried. He didn't reach out to her. Not yet. He still needed more. He rebooked his Atlanta flight, called his manager, and by 9 a.m. he was in the air. Because the best thing Daniel could do right now, the smartest, most protected thing, was to be exactly where he was supposed to be. He closed the Meridian deal in 2 days, shook hands, smiled at the right moments, and flew home on Thursday evening like a man with nothing on his mind. Sarah picked him up from the airport. She was wearing the blue dress he liked. She had her hair down. She kissed him at the arrival's gate and held on a second longer than usual, and Daniel hugged her back with both arms and said, "I missed you," and every word of it was a weapon wrapped in warmth. "How was Atlanta?" she asked, merging onto the freeway. "Productive," he said. "Closed the deal." "Baby, that's amazing." She reached over and squeezed his hand. He squeezed back and smiled at the windshield. 11 pages, he thought. Keep going. Over the next 3 weeks, Daniel became a student of his own marriage. He noticed things he had been too comfortable to notice before. The way Sarah's phone always landed face down on the table now. The way she laughed a little too quickly when he mentioned he might work from home. The way she started going to the gym on Tuesday and Thursday evenings, new habit, new timing, new gym bag he hadn't seen before. He didn't touch her phone. He didn't need to. He had a friend named Kwame who worked in corporate security consulting, the kind of man who solved problems that didn't officially exist. Over lunch one Tuesday, Daniel slid a piece of paper across the table with 2 names on it. Kwame looked at it. Looked at Daniel. Looked back at the paper. "How deep?" Kwame asked. "Financial history. Business records. Any active litigation. Anything with his name on it that he wouldn't want public." Kwame folded the paper and put it in his breast pocket. "Give me 10 days. It took 7. Daniel was in his home office when the encrypted file arrived. He read it slowly, the way you read something you cannot unread. Marcus Webb had not worked at a legitimate financial firm in 14 months. The last 2 positions on his LinkedIn were fabricated. His actual income for the past year was untraceable, routed through 2 LLCs registered in Delaware, both listed as consulting firms, with no public clients and no filed tax returns for the current year. That alone was significant. But it was the 3rd page that made Daniel put down his coffee. 6 months ago, Marcus had approached Sarah, not romantically at first, but financially. He had come to her with an investment opportunity. A property development deal in Charlotte. 40% return in 18 months, he'd told her. Completely legitimate, he'd told her. Sarah had wired him $40,000 from a joint savings account Daniel rarely monitored. The account he had set up for their future home. The account they had been building for 3 years. $40,000. Gone. Daniel sat very still for a very long time. This was no longer just betrayal. This was theft. This was a man who had walked into his marriage, taken his wife, and taken his money, and was currently engaged to another woman in another city while doing it. The audacity of it was so complete, so architectural in its construction, that Daniel almost felt something like reluctant awe. Almost. He called Kwame back that evening. "The money," Daniel said. "I know," Kwame said. "Is it recoverable?" "With the right documentation and the right lawyer, yes. But only if you move before he moves it again." "How long do I have?" "Weeks. Maybe less." Daniel nodded slowly. "One more thing I need from you." "What?" "I need a verified address for a woman named Priya Anand. Callaway Group, Midtown. I need to know how to reach her privately and respectfully." There was a pause on the line. "Daniel," Kwame said carefully. "What are you planning?" "I'm not planning anything," Daniel said. "I'm just making sure the right people have the right information before this is over." He found Priya's work email through Callaway Group's public directory. He drafted the message 17 times. He deleted 15 of them. The final version was 4 paragraphs, calm, factual, compassionate, and accompanied by 6 attachments. Bank transfer records. Screenshots. Kwame's report summary, redacted where necessary. And one photo, the most recent one of Marcus and Sarah, time-stamped, taken outside a restaurant Daniel had never been invited to. He read the email one last time. Then he closed the laptop without sending it. Not yet. The timing had to be exact. He had learned something important in those 47 minutes in the car outside his own house, that the most powerful move was never the first one. It was the last one. The one that landed when everything else was already in motion and there was nowhere left to run. He needed one more piece. He needed Sarah to confirm what he already knew, not because he doubted it, but because when this was over, he wanted her to have looked him in the eyes and made a choice. He wanted her to own it. He needed that, not for anger, but for closure. So that Friday evening, he opened a bottle of wine, cooked her favorite meal, lemon herb chicken with roasted vegetables, lit candles on the dining table, and when Sarah walked in and stopped in the doorway with wide, surprised eyes, he simply said, "I just wanted tonight to be about us." She pressed her hand to her chest. "Daniel. Come sit with me," he said. And she did. They talked for 2 hours. About the early years, about their first apartment, about the trip to Portugal they kept promising themselves. She laughed, genuinely, the way she used to. She reached across the table and held his hand and said, "Sometimes I forget how good we are together." He looked at her and said, "Yeah." His voice didn't break. But something behind his eyes did. "If you're still watching, I need you to drop a comment right now. What do you think Daniel should do? Because what comes next is the moment everything explodes. Like this video so more people find this story, and stay with me. The day Daniel chose was a Wednesday. Not a Monday, too predictable. Not a Friday, too emotional. Wednesday was the middle of everything, the day nobody prepared for, the day that arrived quietly and left you no time to brace. He woke up at 6 a.m., made coffee, and sat by the kitchen window watching the neighborhood come alive. A jogger. A dog walker. A woman reversing out of her driveway with a travel mug balanced on her roof. Ordinary Wednesday things. He watched all of it with the stillness of a man who had already made peace with what was coming. Sarah was still asleep upstairs. He opened his laptop, pulled up the email to Priya, and read it one final time. Still 4 paragraphs. Still calm. Still true. He added one last line at the bottom, "I'm sorry you're receiving this. You deserved better. So did I." He moved his cursor to the send button and held it there for 10 seconds. He clicked. Then he picked up his phone and typed a message to Sarah. Short. Simple. Be home by 7. I'm cooking again. We need to talk. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Then, can't wait. Love you. He set the phone face down on the table. I know, he thought. By noon, Priya had responded. He hadn't expected it that fast. The email was 2 lines, "I need to call you. Is that okay?" He replied with his number. His phone rang 4 minutes later. Her voice was steadier than he expected. The kind of steady that comes not from calm but from a woman who had been quietly suspicious for months and was now receiving confirmation rather than surprise. She asked him 3 questions. How long? How certain? And, did Sarah know about her? No, Daniel said. She doesn't. A long silence. He told me he'd never been in contact with any of his exes, Priya said. He made that very specific. He brought it up on his own, like he wanted me to believe it before I ever thought to ask. That's not an accident, Daniel said. No, she said quietly. It's not. They talked for 31 minutes. By the end of it, they had agreed on a time. 7 o'clock. Same hour. Different locations. Priya would confront Marcus at the apartment they shared across town. Daniel would confront Sarah at home. No coordination after that, just two people each taking back what had been stolen from them in the same 60 minutes on the same Wednesday evening. Before she hung up, Priya said, "I'm sorry about your marriage." Daniel said, "I'm sorry about yours." A pause. "We're going to be okay," she said. It didn't sound like consolation. It sounded like a decision. "Yeah," he said. "We are." The hours between noon and 7 were the longest of Daniel's life. He went to the office. He answered emails. He sat in a meeting about fourth-quarter projections and nodded at the right moments. His body was present and professional and completely automatic. His mind was in two apartments across the city, watching two confrontations that hadn't happened yet, playing out every possible version. He left the office at 5:30. Stopped at the grocery store. Bought the ingredients for lemon herb chicken again, same meal as Friday, intentional. He wanted Sarah to remember that dinner. He wanted the taste of it still in her memory when the truth arrived. He cooked in silence. He set the table for two. At 6:52 p.m., he heard Sarah's key in the door. She came in smiling, dropped her bag by the stairs, and stopped when she smelled the food. "Again?" she said warmly. "Daniel, what's gotten into you?" "Sit down, Sarah." Something in his voice caught her. Not anger, something quieter and more final than anger. She sat. He brought both plates to the table and sat across from her, and for a moment neither of them spoke. "I came home early 3 weeks ago," he said. The color didn't leave her face all at once. It retreated slowly, like a tide pulling back from shore. "My flight was cancelled," he continued. "I stopped at the bakery on Elm. I bought you almond croissants. I came home and the front door was unlocked and I walked upstairs." "Daniel. I need you to let me finish." She closed her mouth. "I stood at that door for 3 seconds," he said. "Then I left. I didn't say anything because I needed to think. And while I was thinking, I found some other things." He reached into the folder beside him and placed the bank records on the table between them. $40,000, Sarah. She looked at the papers. Her hands, flat on the table, began to tremble. "The account we built together," he said. "For our home. It was supposed to be an investment," he said it was going to. "He's not a financial consultant," Daniel said. "He hasn't been employed legitimately in over a year. The firms on his LinkedIn don't exist. The deal in Charlotte doesn't exist. He took our money, Sarah. While he was taking everything else." The tears came then, fast and without ceremony. "Daniel, I didn't know, I swear I didn't know about the money being." "I know you didn't know about all of it," he said. His voice was not cold. That was the thing that seemed to break her most. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't cold. He was just unbearably, heartbreakingly calm. "But you knew enough. You knew enough and you made a choice, and I deserve to hear you say that." The silence stretched long and trembling between them. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Daniel, I am so sorry." "I know," he said. He believed her. That was the most painful part. He believed her completely, and it didn't change a single thing. Across town, at 7:04 p.m., Priya opened her apartment door and found Marcus standing in the kitchen pouring himself a drink, relaxed and unhurried, the way a man looks when he believes his two worlds will never collide. She placed her phone on the counter between them, screen up, displaying Daniel's email, all 4 paragraphs, all 6 attachments. Marcus looked at it. Then at her. Then back at it. "Priya. Don't, she said. One word. Absolute. He tried anyway, the beginning of an explanation, the shape of a justification forming on his lips. She picked up her phone, walked to the bedroom, and began making calls. Her brother first. Then her lawyer. Then the building manager about changing the locks. Marcus stood in the kitchen alone, his drink in his hand, and for the first time in a very long time, he had nowhere to redirect, nowhere to perform, no version of himself available that could fix what was already fully broken. By 9 p.m., Daniel was sitting on the front steps of his house with a cup of coffee going cold in his hands. Sarah had gone to her sister's. She had packed a bag without being asked, which told him she understood, not just what she had done, but what it meant for what came next. There had been no screaming. No thrown dishes. Just two people in a kitchen, looking at the ruins of something that had once been genuinely good, accepting the weight of it. He had his lawyer on standby. The asset recovery process would begin in the morning. Kwame had already forwarded the financial documentation to the appropriate contacts. Marcus Webb's carefully constructed double life was about to become someone else's legal problem, several people's, in fact. But right now Daniel wasn't thinking about any of that. He was thinking about Portugal. About the trip they had never taken. About a version of his life that had seemed so solid 2 months ago and had turned out to be built on someone else's decisions. He sat with that for a while, the way you sit with something heavy before you finally set it down. Then he set it down. He pulled out his phone and opened a new note. At the top he wrote 2 words. What's next? Not a question. A direction. He didn't know yet what the answer was. But for the first time in 3 weeks he felt the particular freedom of a man with nothing left to protect and nothing left to pretend. It was terrifying and clean and, underneath all of it, something that felt quietly, stubbornly like hope. He finished his coffee. He went inside. He left the porch light on, not for Sarah, but out of habit, the small domestic rituals that outlast even the biggest endings. And just before he fell asleep, his phone buzzed once. A message from an unknown number. He's gone. Thank you for the call. P. He smiled in the dark. One phone call. That's all it had taken. And that is where we leave Daniel tonight. But if you think this story is over, you haven't been paying attention. Because what Daniel finds out in episode 2 is going to change everything you thought you knew about this story, including something about Sarah that even Daniel never saw coming. If this story kept you watching till the very end, you already know what to do. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I read every single one. Episode 2 is coming, and trust me, you do not want to miss it.